And we're live. Welcome, Benjamin.
Hello, good to be here.
Great to see you, my friend. And hello to everybody as folks are coming into the live stream. And we'll give you an official welcome, but I'm just so thrilled to be back to Tea with Mimi with my dear friend, Benjamin C.S. Boyle, Grammy-nominated composer.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. This is actually episode number 44, which kind of amazes me because I started Tea with Mimi, as you know, during the COVID pandemic as a way of just being able to do music virtually while we were not on stages. And it has continued through the use of this wonderful StreamYard technology so I could interview my amazing colleagues. And share some music. So we're getting ready for a performance of a new version of your Sonata Cantilena, which we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
And here's some examples from in a moment. But right now, I think I'm going to officially introduce Benjamin C.S. Boyle.
That's me.
Absolutely. So he is an American composer, pianist, and theorist. He has received commissions and premieres from the Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra, Chicago Lyric Opera, Montreal Chamber Orchestra, Kobe City Orchestra, many other orchestras and ensembles, including the Crossing Choir, which released your Grammy-nominated album a few years ago for Voyages. We're going to hear some of that in a little bit. Benjamin was the Young Concert Artists Composer in Residence from 2005 to 2007, a nice other connection that we have because I was also a winner and then roster artist of Young Concert Artists, and that has brought us together for some collaborations as well.
Yep, sure has.
Yeah, Benjamin's music has been performed by distinguished artists, including tenor Brian Heimel, baritone Randall Scarlatta, soprano Sarah Schaefer. Sarah and Randall are also singers who performed regularly with Dolce Suono ensembles, so our circles keep connecting. Also, you frequently collaborate with the marimba player Makoto Nakura. We were on the Young Concert Artists roster together and played together. So another little connection there. We'll hear some of your music with marimba in a bit. In 2022, Lyric Fest put out a 2-CD set of Benjamin's songs, which is incredible to have 2 albums of your vocal works while being relatively young as a composer, like not an old composer and having a lot of vocal.
Too old yet.
Absolutely. And Benjamin has degrees from Juilliard, a PhD in composition from the University of Pennsylvania, a master's in music from Peabody, and a bachelor's in music from the University of South Florida. He is associate director and faculty at the EAMA Summer Music Institute in Paris. And this just celebrated an anniversary, right? What year did you
30th anniversary this past summer.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Benjamin also teaches privately, has taught at many institutions, and leads an in-person and online, I believe, analysis salon, which is pretty cool for folks to check out who are studying.
Yeah. If you really want to get dorky about music, it's the place to be.
Absolutely. So before we go to our first musical example, I just want to greet some of our listeners who are on. And Benjamin, I don't know if you could see some comments on the right-hand side of your screen here, but I see Victor Coco says hello, hello, Victor. And Rick Rosen, who's a great choral conductor of Cordis Mundi and other choruses, says hi. And you've missed us. Thank you, we too. I'm so glad you're back. I don't think you've ever missed a tea. So thanks for being here. And you might have questions for Benjamin, especially as a writer of vocal and choral music. So everybody, please say hello and share with us in the comments where you are and what you're drinking today. So my first question for you, Benjamin, what beverage do you have on Tea with Me?
I have my classic afternoon espresso.
That's
Parisian style,
We did not plan this, but I'm actually drinking coffee too.
So it's really coffee with me today.
It is. We can drink it cold.
That's okay.
Which is fine. So tell me, what are you working on right now?
I've just started a new commission from a Baroque group in Philadelphia called Filament, which I've never worked with before. I'm super excited. And yes, you heard that correctly, a Baroque ensemble. So I'll be writing for instruments that are, different from me. But it will be a kind of Baroque suite, short piece, 5 to 8 minutes. So it'll be premiered in January here in Philly.
I can't wait to hear it. And it's pretty unusual to write for Baroque instruments, but you had mentioned to me you've been interested in doing that.
Yeah, I've always been interested in this. It's we live in this funny world where now there's all these amazing Baroque ensembles. There's four of them in Philadelphia that are all pro, right? I mean, it's kind of insane. And the I think they've gotten so good and they've conquered so much repertoire that they're like, I don't know, could we do some new music? And I'm like, I'd be happy to contribute to that. And I have a deep, as you do, a deep love for Bach and all music Baroque, and so it's kind of something I've always wanted to do, and now we get the chance to try it out.
That's very exciting. There's just not a lot of new music that involves early instruments and even harpsichord. Of course, as a flutist, I'm thinking of the Czech composer Bohuslav Martinu, who wrote a lot of chamber music, luckily for flute, and he has some things that are for actual harpsichord written in the 20th century. So this is going to be very exciting.
It'll be really different, I mean, I spent a couple hours yesterday looking up, okay, so the bass lute has 7 strings. And, so you really, it's really liberating in a way to do something that's so out of your comfort zone and yet strangely familiar because I love that music. And, and I worked with a lot of Baroque ensembles as either a conductor or as a producer. And so I don't know, I'm looking forward to it. Should be a blast.
Well, I think you're an ideal composer to do this just because you're so steeped in the canon and in music history in ways that influence your work. And that's actually a marvelous segue to talking about the Sonata Cantilena, which originated as our Dolce Suono Ensemble commission in 2009.
Long time ago.
I know, for flute and piano, and it was specifically for our project celebrating the centennial of Samuel Barber, the great American composer with Pennsylvania roots and fellow graduate of Curtis Institute of Music. So it was kind of a very personal project in some ways, and you took it in a really great direction. Can you talk a little bit about how you chose to add the cantilena and what that means for us?
Sure. Well, I mean, when I think of flute sonatas, how can you not think of Poulenc? Because, I don't know, it's got to be one of the best. It's got to be top 5, right? And his famous cantilena movement. So when thinking about 2 composers, Barber and Poulenc, who were large influences on me just in general before you and I ever talked about a flute sonata, it was kind of a no-brainer to try to pay homage to the cantilena while still producing something that's highly influenced by Barber.
Exactly. And we are just thrilled with your work, and it really deserves multiple performances. We did the world premiere in Philadelphia. We did the New York premiere for a young concert artists composers concert a few years after that. And then I recorded it with Charles Abramovic, my duo partner on piano. And he was with me, of course, for the world and New York premieres and other touring performances. But we recorded it on our 2 CD album, Odyssey.
Right.
Of 11 American premieres, so people can access that. We're going to sample from the piece, and we're actually going to watch some of the video of our live performance last year. But if everyone wants to hear, actually, there are 2 live performances that we have on YouTube of the whole thing, and also the album for people who want to listen. We're just getting some really lovely comments, so I want to say hi to Stephen Fisher. And you said Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Steve. My family and I just celebrated Rosh Hashanah, and so appreciate the greeting and want to say Shana Tova, Happy New Year to all of those out there who have also celebrated. And also we have a greeting from Erwin Bernollet. Hello from Antwerp. Enjoy the coffee and the moment together. Thank you so much for being with us, and we hope you enjoy and comment and enjoy the moment with us.
Absolutely.
So I'll switch my audio over, and I think we're going to hear from the beginning of the Sonata Cantilena segment, and then maybe you can talk about that. Maybe we'll sample another movement.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Wow. Bravo.
Bravo to you, Charles.
Thank you, Benjamin. So that was just the opening of the first movement of your Sonata Cantilena for flute and piano. So stunning, so colorful. A reflection on Barber and Poulenc in the flute repertoire. And I think what comes up so strongly is your affinity with voice and therefore your affinity for flute. How did that come about, the voice affinity? Let's both mute for 1 second because we're getting that little switch over.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
We're good. Yeah, good. Flute is a natural instrument for me to write for a lot of reasons. Obviously, I write a lot of songs and I write a lot of choral music, so the voice is quite natural. And of course, the flute and the voice are very similar. But also, sneaky fun fact, I did grow up playing the clarinet, so I was a kind of former woodwind player. I mean, I always played the piano as my primary, but we went to school. They wouldn't let you play piano in the orchestra, so I had to pick something. And I've always felt pretty at home with that. And then, kind of more broadly speaking, I've never shied away from highly melodic music. I know sometimes these days that's not the focus of a lot of composers, but it's funny. I remember a couple years back going to a new opera. Well, I'm not going to name any names. And I remember hearing an interview with the composer and saying, like, I just want people to be walking out of the theater, like, singing the tunes. And I was like, yeah, that's what I would want. I don't remember hearing any tunes that night, but I do agree with the idea, which is that, there's, when you think about writing for soprano, you think about melodies, right? And so the flute is a perfect substitute for that. Or in fact, kind of, enhancement in some ways.
Well, thank you. But no, but that's exactly what we think, because as flutists, we feel that we're the closest instrument to the human voice, although I know some of my colleagues in other instruments would disagree or say that they are, or that, but I think the point is we're always emulating the voice, just kind of like in making phrases and making melody happen and shading and using tone colors and timbres. And that was definitely the legacy, the approach of my teacher, my beloved teacher, Julius Baker, was an approach to flute all about timbres and expression through variety of tone, which is a very vocal approach. So it also is very connected with French music for flute. Mm-hmm. And one thing that you even have in your bio that I'd love you to talk about a little bit is your training in the Nadia Boulanger method.
That's right. So I first went over there in the year 2000 when I was a master's student and started studying with Narcisse Bonnet. He was the personal assistant and longtime student of Nadia Boulanger. He was with her basically every day of her life for the last 35, 40 years. And when she finally started to age and she couldn't sight read or play as much as she used to, the Narcisse would play everything for her. He's kind of one of the great, there's a lot of people that say, I studied with Boulanger, and yeah, they dropped in for an analysis class, but then there are the lifers, and he was one of them. So that training is extremely rigorous training in harmony and solfege that leads to analysis. And I don't know, I, as someone who kind of grew up going through the American conservatory system, was always extremely disappointed in the theory training. I think that American theory has become the art of naming things. It's like, that right there, that's a 6/4 chord. Okay, cool. That right there, that's a appoggiatura. Okay, well, yeah, but what am I going to do with that information besides knowing how to call things?
So naming rather than function or context, yes. Or how would you describe that?
Absolutely. And it's very dry. I mean, think of something like Roman numeral analysis and saying that's a 2 chord and that's a 5 chord. That is correct. And we should all know that what they are. But that doesn't give me enough information. I mean, for example, I'm sitting at the piano right now, so I could play you a tonic chord. I could play you this tonic chord, and I could play you this tonic chord. They're all one. That's not enough information, So the Boulanger thing is focused on kind of like a holistic approach to how the tradition developed, right? So instead of talking about functionality, we'll talk about sonority, or instead of talking about, what the inversion of something is, we'll talk about doubling. These things that are much more effective in actually getting your point across,
This is fascinating. And I think one way we see it play out a little bit, just your training and the rigor of this approach in your Sonata Cantilena, is the idea that we just heard a very lovely first movement section that's very melodic and very engaging and colorful for both instruments. At the same time, if you study the score, the melodies don't conform so much to the meter. This is a kind of in-depth music theory issue, but I've noticed in your music, often the meter will conform to the melody or to your idea.
Absolutely.
And you've also mentioned that you had written about and researched Benjamin Britten. And I think not just because you have the same initials, but there's something else going on, right, with your influence from Britten in this topic I brought up. What would you say about how you do the melody and the rhythm together, obviously connected through counterpoint?
I have a lot of things to say about that. But it is funny. I give my parents a lot of grief about my name, but it isn't a good place on the bookshelf if you kind of like think about who I'm next to. But anyway, so writing with a voice is probably the thing that got me out of a box that I think all young composers find themselves in, which is filling up a bunch of bars, right? Because most of these people, of course, are writing a finale. I never do that, just in case you want proof. This is actually your original piece.
Yes.
Which I dug up from the archives earlier today.
I treasure my copy, of your manuscript.
Thank you. This is a problem of people writing on finale or whatever the current program is, right? That you're presented with a bunch of boxes and you have to fill them up. And so you have this, what I call the tyranny of the bar line effect, right? Where everything is downbeat, 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 downbeat. And that's, the case for a lot of non-classical music is like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in writing vocal music and thinking about texts and poetry and how we speak, we don't speak in 4/4 bars, right? We speak in all these little small units, sometimes larger units, sometimes smaller, and never patterned, right? Meaning I'm not speaking to you in a sequence of rhythms. I'm speaking to you in a whole bunch of different ones that are all coming at different rates, right? And so, think about it this way, and if I'm getting too dorky on the theory side, say, hey, Benjamin, nobody wants to hear about this, and I'd be happy to stop.
Yeah, this is great. I see some heavy hitters here in the comments, so I think
I'm looking too. I can't write back to you, but I do want to respond to some of those because it's so cool to see Marion. Oh my God, that's so cool. Anyway, think about this. If the intersection of rhythm and meter, right? You've got, and let's just be really clear. Meter is just like a set of expectations, right? If I sit here and I go 1, 2, 3, 1. And we sit here awkwardly for a while, your brain's still going, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because nothing else has come along to change that expectation, right? And rhythms are the things that you as a flutist actually perform. All right. So you can have very simple meters or very complicated meters, and you can also do the same with rhythm, very simple or very complex. If you get simple, that's kind of like the pop world. Simple meters, simple rhythms. If you get complicated meters and complicated rhythms, that's where you get into like the music of the 90s, like the Elliott Carter and Milton Babbitt and those guys. It's so complicated that most humans would never be able to know if that was actually correct, right? You need a computer to be like, did that pianist play that 19/17 correctly? I don't know. A computer could probably tell you. Anyway, the sweet spot is in the middle there, right? In the 19th century, composers hadn't yet figured out how to switch meter fluidly yet, right? So they had the masters of making intricate rhythms inside of simple meters. Think Chopin, Brahms, Fauré, Schumann, right? They don't change meter very often, but what's inside is so fascinating, it keeps it interesting, right? 20th century, you flip that around, and you get people that say, okay, I'm going to simplify down the rhythms, but I'll have all these funky meter shifts. Mm-hmm. That works too. So anyway, my whole point is that you have to be really aware of this when writing. Like, I am one of these people that I'm not good at waiting. Not a good waiter. So like, I'm listening to somebody's music, I'm like, okay, now I'm waiting for the next thing to happen. That's a problem, right? I want everything, every moment to be present and like conscious.
I think that idea of when you're listening to music and you have some sense intrinsically of whether you're near the beginning, the middle, or the end, not because you know theory, not because it's an actual sonata allegro movement, let's say, and you're anchoring that way, but just in the language itself. That's what your comment kind of resonated and brought out for me, especially when you were talking about some of the French masters for
Absolutely.
I think of Ravel as well. You mentioned also Schumann. So yeah, so that's so fantastic to know. And actually, with that in mind, let's go to another bit of Sonata Cantilena.
Exciting.
And so I gave the world premiere in 2010, the centennial of Samuel Barber year, because that was the commission with pianist Charles Abramovic. This is from our performance a few years later for young concert artists at Merkin Hall in New York, the New York premiere. And we're all getting ready for Dolce Sono Ensemble's version premiere because you've just arranged it for flute and string quartet. And we're doing that at our season opening concert on October 5th. It's very special because we're celebrating our 20th anniversary all season. And we're thrilled to be bringing back this beautiful work that you wrote, Benjamin, in a new guise. So I think as our friends are listening to this sample, maybe after you can kind of think ahead as to what the difference was or what was it like to arrange with flute and string quartet versus flute and piano. So I'm going to get that share ready.
Okay.
I also want to thank Zalman Kaufman for your bravo. Thank you. Thank you, Cordis Mundi, also. And then Bob and Marion Pollock for your lovely recollection of having Benjamin's music, yes, on WPRB on your show in Princeton.
Yeah, I remember that really fondly. So good to see you, Bob. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, great to have you here. And thanks for your lovely words about the recording on Odyssey of this work. That was the end of the third movement into the fourth movement of Sonata Continuana for flute and piano by my guest, Benjamin Boyle. Again, bravo.
It's a beautiful performance. That performance, I remember that one particularly well. That was really great. Bravo to you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. And I was actually thinking, hearing the fourth movement, which is definitely virtuosic, there's so much lyricism in that. And I think that's what we're also going to try to bring in the new version for Flute and String Quartet that we're about to premiere on October 5th.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting.
So tell me a little bit about what you went through in re-envisioning it from piano to string quartet.
I gotta say, that's always the much harder direction to go in. It's much easier to take a string quartet and arrange it for piano. That's relatively straightforward, but the other way around is tricky because I have the original score right here. And again, you played that excerpt at the very beginning, right, of this like big flowy arpeggio at the beginning. That's super pianistic. It sounds great on the keyboard at the top of the instrument, but the strings can't do that. They can do other things that can mimic it. But in places like this, I think a lot of people think when you transcribe, you just like take this note and put it over here, and take this note and put it over here. That's not usually going to work very well. What you really need to do is reimagine what the goal of that texture was, and then say, like, how can I reproduce that effect in the audience with 4 string players that don't have sustain pedals?
Right. It's so great you're at your piano and can play for us as we talk to illustrate these points. But interestingly enough, yeah, I think some parts like the opening we look forward to hearing, because that was a bit of a recomposition, you said.
Absolutely.
At the same time, the whole time we've been performing this with flute and piano, Charlie has been saying that third movement, that would be so great with strings. Actually, the whole thing, but certainly the short staccato notes would let me.
Absolutely.
For example, yeah.
And there'll be a lot of pizzicato and special effects with some of that. And the fourth movement too, like this whole, all this big, flashy, showy stuff, like the trills that we hear. That's like not very pianistic. That's very string happy. So there are moments that are like, I have to redesign the whole thing. Then there's other moments I'm like, this will just be even easier. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'm most interested too in obviously the technical aspect, but the emotional aspect, how all the different sonorities change that experience of the work.
I think I'm really excited about it. It's something that I gave myself kind of like maybe 2 to 3 months, and then 6 months later, I'm still doing it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to change that. I got an even better idea. So yeah, I can't wait to hear it.
Nice. Well, actually, while we listen to some of your choral music, there was a question from Rick. If you've written for tenor, bass.
Yes, I have. I believe I think I've done almost every combo at this point, but I have an Ave Maria, I think, for tenor, bass from a long time ago to dig that up. But yeah, let me know how to reach you, and I'd be happy to share it.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we're going to hear from your voyages for chorus, written for the crossing. Please introduce that, if you would. Oh, beautiful. Yeah,
this is the CD. It was amazing. I had a new student a couple of months ago who actually came for a lesson here, and he's 18, 19, 20. And I was like, would you like a copy of the CD? You can take one. And he's like, I could use it as a coaster. And I was like, oh man, I love CDs. And it's great that everybody can go listen to this online on YouTube for free, and it's amazing. But at the same time, we miss having the physical object that people spend a lot of time designing this, and Anyway, this CD is probably the crossing. They've gone on this incredibly historic run of winning Grammys. I think they've got 7 now or something, which is a classical record. It's probably an all-time record. In any case. This was right in the heart of that run. So this would have been published in 2018, I think. Maybe it's a little earlier than that, 2017. I think it's somewhere in there. In any case, yeah.
Right. Oh, and for those at home, I should also say the Crossing Choir was founded by Donald Nally, and it's specifically a new music choir.
That's right. A
lot of commissions, including with Benjamin.
Yep. And they've been around a long time in Philly, and they're one of the groups that started from nothing and now have a huge international audience. I was just lucky enough to know Donald before it started. I sang in a choir of his at St. Mark's Church a million years ago, and the crossing started there.
Oh, that's amazing. So let's hear the beginning or your first movement of the Voyages with text by Hart Crane.
Love it.
wow, bravo. That's really lush.
Thank you.
I love how the your orchestration of it with the strings and the singers cover such a big range.
Well, it's a testament to Hart Crane's amazing poetry, but this is a big piece. You don't get a chance to do one like this very often, so I was going to take full advantage of it. And that choir can just do anything. I mean, it's kind of one of these stories I don't know if a lot of especially people that are more in the orchestral world probably aren't aware of. Like, professional choirs have become like a big deal. Even when we were in school, it was like, professional what? They have professional choirs? It would be like the people who sing with the orchestra? No, now there's like all these specialized groups all over the country that are doing a ton of new music and are very virtuosic.
And Donald Nally is such a pioneer with the crossing in this.
For sure.
But yeah, so did you set the entire Voyage's poem?
I did not. I excerpted it. It's a very long poem. And I've done this oftentimes where I've excerpted very long poems to try to just get at the core of what I want to talk about. Hart Crane, he's an amazing poet, but it's loquacious, right? I mean, it's just a lot of words. And so I kind of coalesced into a workable unit for this.
That's amazing. There's not tons of settings of Hart Crane, I think in part because of that purple quality. I mean, I love it, but yeah.
You do. Yeah, there's not a lot of, settings. There's not a lot of poetry, unfortunately, died young and tragically like a lot of poets. But yeah, it's one of these like American masters that I think a lot of people don't always know too much about.
Absolutely. It's such a great work, and definitely having the very symphonic sound with mostly singers and just strings.
So great. And by the way, string orchestra is the best. You can do anything with a string orchestra. It's just so much fun to write for.
What about winds, though?
Oh, winds are great too. I didn't say anything. No, they're fine. I would love to do that. I would love to do like a wind ensemble piece someday. I think that would be a ton of fun.
Oh, so that's getting into winds, no strings, like a little bit of Varese or Stravinsky in that period. I'm not sure why, but they had more winds going on than strings, and that's what you did.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, they did. Yeah. Must have just loved the color,
No, I know you're not discriminating against any instrument family, but I had to have that, like that wind player complex came out right there.
Understandable. It's understandable.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to have a very different musical example from you in a moment. But first of all, thank you to Ronnie Gordon, mom, and Dolce Suono Ensemble board chairwoman, and Charlie Bravi, another exquisite performance of Benjamin's fabulous Sonata Cantilena. Benjamin, you're well placed on the bookshelf with all the B's. Oh, wow.
Not bad. I'm happy about that.
There's the major B's in music. Yeah, so I'm so glad you shared with me this excerpt from your work for piano and marimba. Now, that's not a combination you hear all the time, and I think it's one of your many pieces that you've written for Makoto Nakura. And we get to see you at piano in this. Please introduce the work before we hear some.
Sure. So this is the first piece I ever wrote for marimba. It's for marimba and piano. It's about a 30-minute suite. It's was designed to be performed by Makoto and myself. We have played it many, many times. We recorded it in Japan about 10 years ago. That's on a Japanese label. And the piece is called Le Bois du Paradis, right? The Woods of Paradise. It's 7 movements, I think. I don't know which excerpt you're thinking of playing.
I thought from the beginning that you sent me.
Absolutely.
Preference, and I can.
No, I think that's a good thing to show, because it's, as a pianist, I was always told as a kid, like, you're playing too loud. I'd be like, oh, God, okay, I'm always playing too loud, because I'm playing with singers or something. Like, stop playing so loud. Well, the marimba, it's the opposite challenge. It's like it's hard to get heard, because the marimba is an immense instrument. It's like the piano in many ways, right? But there's no turn off the sustain pedal, right? It's just always sustaining. And when you are the pianist playing with marimba, you have to be very careful, because your pedal takes their sound into it, right? And so it's very easy to get some like cross phase sound if you're not careful with it. It's kind of like playing with a harpist, right? Like that, there's a lot of resonance, but see, the harp can always dampen. The marimba can't dampen. So it's an interesting accompanying experience as well as musical.
Oh, that's fascinating. Did you have to separate on stage a little bit because of the?
Oh, yeah. We always play like at opposite ends of the stage for this piece.
Wow. And tell us, please, about Les Bois du Paradis. Like, what was your inspiration from the French text? Or
Well, no, this was just, me, I don't usually write programmatic stuff, but Makoto was like, he really wanted it to have some type of like forest theme, or, marimbas are always interested in this type of thing. And I was like, okay, I mean, I was just going to call it a suite for marimba. And he's like, how about something a little bit more descriptive? And I was like, I'll give you this much. It's Bois de Paradis. He's like, great, I'll take it.
oh, so the titles are from you. Like each scenario is from you.
Yeah, the titles are for me. And the setup here is that there are I think four main movements, and then three movements that are called chemin, right? Little like French word for path, that kind of like lead you into each movement.
Okay. Interesting. So some of them are ataka or connected.
Exactly. Like if you're gonna, I don't know which pan to play, but if you're playing the first into the second, you'll hear that.
Okay, great. Let's do that. I'll definitely start at the beginning.
Great.
Wow, Benjamin. That's
Thank
stunning. And
you.
And so innovative. So we just heard a section of the opening two movements of Benjamin Boyle's Le Bois du Paradis for piano and marimba. Or maybe it's marimba and piano. Who gets it?
Marimba and piano. Marimba and piano.
Okay.
Piano always go last.
Like a regular sonata, I guess. But that's so fascinating how you use the sonority of the instruments to support each other. And it almost reminds me of maybe because I've been reading about Stravinsky to prepare a class. So I'm thinking about Cymbalom and like those kinds of meandering, supporting things, but between the marimba and piano. That were you inspired by more like line the way you write a song? Or were you thinking very much about the timbre driving it and the sonority?
I think, especially in that longer movement we just heard, it's really about the timbre, right? There's melodic lines in there, of course, but it's more about like luxuriating in the sound that we can make together as two instruments that you don't think normally would play together. Because they have such similar kind of profiles in a way, right? But I don't know. I had so much fun working on this. And Makoto is, I mean, you've worked with him. He's just one of the greatest collaborators you could have. We've done, I think, 4 or 5 pieces now together, including a concerto. And I've been to Japan many times to work with him there, which has been a blast, of course. And it's so funny, when we first met, it was again through young concert artists, like you said. He was like, "Oh, I'd love to hear some of your music," and I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't have anything for your instrument," you know. And he was like, "Oh, it's all right. Just send me like whatever your favorite piece of yours is." And I was like, "Well, I don't hear people say that to me very often." So I was like, "Okay." So I sent him, I think it was my first cantata or something like that, and he was like, "Oh, this is amazing. Let's do a piece together." And I was like, "I've never even considered writing for your instrument. I've nothing against it, but I've never even thought about it." And then I went to go hear him play a solo concert in New York where he played all Bach, and I was 1,000% convinced. I was like, okay, never mind. I should have been thinking about this instrument from the beginning. It's fantastic, you know, and surprisingly good Bach instrument, you know.
I recently learned that it's very standard for marimba to play Bach arrangements. Bach is, of course, standard for flute, but really for all of us, whether I guess we have this music in our repertoire or not, we often will also, as flutists, arrange more. So it makes a lot of sense, just that. But yes.
One thing that might surprise you, because at least it surprised me, is they don't play the keyboard music of Bach. They play the flute stuff, the violins, the partitas and such. Because I would have thought, oh, maybe they played like the French suites or something. But no, they play the solo line stuff of Bach. Wow. More so than like the keyboard stuff.
That's pretty amazing. But yeah, Makoto is so expressive and just beautiful performances as well as piece there.
Absolutely.
To hear marimba and piano together is pretty neat. So it'll be interesting to see if some of your students follow you into that unusual combination.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So everyone, it's been great having you all here. Just to review, you can share this link because this stays up after if you came in late or want to review the show and hear some more examples, and follow us on our websites. We are getting ready for the version premiere of Benjamin Boyle's Sonata Cantilena for flute and string quartet, the work originally for flute and piano that we're going to do on October 5th with my amazing colleagues. Our quartet for that concert has violinists Yu-Ting Chen of the Philadelphia Orchestra, Lun Lee, also young concert artist as we were, violist Chehung Chen of Philadelphia Orchestra, my Curtis classmate, and cellist Arlen Lesko of Bang on Again All-Stars and other groups. And then not on your piece, but Charlie will be there playing harpsichord for Vivaldi concertos. And then the string quartet and I will also perform Joe Can's Viaje, another wonderful legitimate ensemble commission. So we hope our listeners will join virtually as part of the virtual subscription that we also offer. So you can check us out on our dulcesmono.com website or our websites and follow us here, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everything. So thanks for being here. And Benjamin, I mentioned to you that I'm going to have a surprise track for today.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
And this is a composer that in our many years of friendship, maybe 20 years of friendship, I don't know if we've really talked about, but it's his birthday today. Dmitri Shostakovich.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Fun.
So September 25th, I think of Shostakovich. I think of my Grandma Irene's birthday was today. We miss her, and she shared the birthday. With Shostakovich, we're going to hear from the Symphony No. 5 in a performance by Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic in Japan in 1979 with my teacher Julius Dick was playing, and it was just his birthday 2 days ago, September 3rd. So it's just a lot of love surrounding this day and this performance. So yeah, I think maybe we'll hear a little, and then it could be our first chat ever about Shostakovich. I'm going to ask you to react. Okay,
that's great.
just finding a spot. Really hard to stop that one.
Sure is.
So we heard some of the allegretto at the end of the first movement into the second movement of Shostakovich Symphony No. 5 for Shostakovich's birthday today. Benjamin, how do you like this work and thoughts on this composer?
I never know exactly what to make of Shostakovich. You know, I recognize instantly how creative this guy is. Just amazingly, it doesn't sound like anyone else. Like, you just that's an easy drop the needle test. It's like that's Shostakovich. It's got to be, you know. So that is amazing, and yet I'm never quite sure like what he's really doing, like what he's really up to. You know, it's fascinating for me. Like. Of all like the big composers, maybe this is why you and I haven't talked about it very much, because of all like the major composers, he's the one that like I don't have a strong opinion on. Like, besides the fact that I recognize the genius, you know, it's interesting. It's always like leaves me with more questions than answers when I listen to Shostakovich.
Wow, in what way? In terms of questioning, what is he going for? What does that mean to you?
Well, like, what is his harmonic idea and plan and world? It's a consistent one in there, but like, what is it? Like, it's always so unstable. And yet it's like trying to become stable, but it never gets there, right? That's kind of his general vibe, like instability, but no, it's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. But it's also about to like crumble into a million pieces. It's fascinating music.
It is. No, I'm a huge fan. And of course, I love this symphony. And and you saw Julius Baker, everybody in the future. That was my teacher. This is with the New York Philharmonic and Leonard Bernstein in 1979 in a performance in Japan. So I think a lot of us will recognize various people we know and teachers and of that generation in this performance video. But yeah, so we are celebrating Shostakovich today. And that's so interesting because, you know, you and I talk a lot about French music. And I know that's kind of a shared musical heritage and love that we both have. And in the late 19th century, a lot of our favorite French composers, Debussy, Ravel, were so influenced by Rimsky-Korsakov, Mussorgsky, and that generation of Russians. So we're looking at the Russian crossover here, or not as much, really.
And that's, but you know, I think they were definitely very influenced by those guys. And you know, it's funny. There's historically France and Russia have this bizarre love affair / you know, kind of sibling rivalry. You know, they always have an interesting history, those two places.
Yeah, very interesting cross-pollination.
Yeah. Nowhere close to each other. They always seem to influence each other.
Yeah, we mentioned Stravinsky today, and just like Ballet Russe, so many interesting examples.
Exactly.
But Benjamin, thank you so much for joining me. It was a lot of fun to talk with you, to share your amazing music with everybody, and to talk music, and look forward to performances.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for everybody in the comments and for being here. It's very kind of you, and I wish you all well.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us virtually. We look forward to performing with you. Benjamin and I will also be on WWFM Radio with David Osenberg as part of our Dolce Suono Ensemble regular series of broadcasts. You can tune in Monday night, September 29th, and Saturday, October 4th afternoon as well. But just go to wwfm.org or follow me and Dolce Suono Ensemble social media to find out. But those are broadcasts where we're also going to be previewing our October 5th concert with your music. So we look forward to that. Thanks, friends, for listening. If you're listening after, please say hello to us, put comments, questions. Well, we'd love to get them. And once again, Benjamin, such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.